This presentation is brought to you by Smoooth Productions.
What's going on, party people? Welcome to another edition of Smoooth Conversations, where the conversations are always smooth. It's your boy Smoooth, not with one, not with two, but with 3 O's. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all like, man, who is Smoooth? What do you do? I'm glad y'all asked. So I am a professional DJ, as you see, host, do content. Need some drone services? I got you for any kind of event. Need some merch done, shirts, caps, you name it. I'll hold you down. I am a engineer as well, producer. Call me Mr. Jack of all trades, and just love doing what I do. And as you see on the screen, there is a QR code. So if you're interested in any kind of services, also photography and videography as well, scan the QR code right there and connect with yours truly. Save Smoooth Productions as a contact and go to the website as well. You'll see it when you scan the QR code. Or for those listening, go to smoothproductions.com, smooth with 3 O's, and check out all the services. And you can book your appointment, your event, the whole nine. I got you. Outside of that, make sure y'all go ahead. If it ain't already, go to YouTube, put in Smoooth Conversations, Smooth with 3 O's, like and subscribe, because this show is amazing. I've been doing it since July of last year. My very first guest was the one, the only, Guy Torrey, and ever since then, it's just been truly a blessing. This show is all about just getting people stories told in a positive way. This is not about giving no shade, bashing, no negativity. It's all about just uplifting and getting stories told, because you never know where someone's journey came from. You know, from being small, being in high school or whatever, to going through different trials in their life and getting to where they are right now. That's what this show is all about. So once again, like, subscribe right now on YouTube. Click on that bell so anytime this show goes on like it is right now, you will be notified. Also, we on KBDR, Beat District Radio, high definition, sounding so sexy right now. Going down, go to the website, beatdistrictradio.com. Check out everything that my fam has in store. We've been going strong since March, and we're continuing to build and build and build and grow. And just added some new additions recently. So shouts out to the new family members of Beat District Radio. And also we have some amazing events that's going down. Speaking of which, we have one on June 22nd called Sunday Fun Day, adults only. Got to be 25 and up. Kids, sorry, you can't have fun with the adults. We got to get some time for ourselves. And it goes down from 12 to 7 p.m. at Gamers Island. Just go on Google, put in Gamers Island. It's right there in the heart of Ferguson, and it's going to be an amazing time. Once again, beatdistrictradio.com, or they have an app. Just put in Beat District Radio. You might have to put in KBDR as well. No matter if you have App Store or Google Play, got you covered. Also, y'all may be wondering, okay, well, why does Smoooth have this table behind him? Well, once again, I'm glad y'all asked, because something special is going down on June 21st. And except for me saying it, I got this. Baby girl, why do I see a table, some yellow linen, and sunflowers in the middle of the table? What's going on?
Dad, you always forget. It's a daddy daughter dance.
Oh, you know what? I didn't have the whole commercial right. So you see it right there. The daddy daughter dance going down Saturday, June 21st from 1 to 4 p.m. at the John F. Kennedy Community Center, 315 Howder Shell in Florissant, Missouri, 63031. Go to g4lstl.org, or if you're watching, scan the QR code and register to be a part of this amazing event. I am personally calling out all the fathers to show up, show out. Even if you are a father figure, you may not have a daughter, but maybe you have a niece or a little sister, whoever it is. Come on out and let's support this non-for-profit for my wife that she's doing. Shouts out to you, wifey. And let's show up and show out for our daughters. And also, it's not just for the young daughters. You can be any age. You can be up there 30 and up. And you have a father or father figure who you want to bring to the event. All ages are welcome, because you just want to, once again, show up and show out and have an amazing time. So I think that's enough promo for just right now. Once again, this is Smoooth Conversations, where the conversations are always smooth. And as I said before, this show is all about having amazing people sharing stories. And tonight, it does not stop. This woman here, she is the owner of Sweetest Nectar, which is a private practice offering holistic lactation and doula support. She is certified to serve the community, and she does so many amazing things. And just talking to her on the pre-show, I'm learning even more about her. And that's what this show is all about. I want to learn about some things, have her just be 100 and transparent as we talk about so many things, from where she started from, what she's doing right now, and where she is going, and whatever else comes to mind, because this is strictly a conversation, and we're about to go ahead and have that. And mind you, she does all these amazing things while balancing out being a mother as well. Speaking of which, shouts out to the fathers, because Father's Day is coming up this Sunday. That's why I'm rocking this shirt right here, supporting the dads. So once again, happy Father's Day to the fathers coming up. And going back to our special guests, everyone, leave comments, leave your questions. If you have funny stories, whatever you want to do, this is the opportunity to do so. But I had to warn you. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. But if it's something that is not appropriate, it's not going to be shown, because I have the power to do that. So once again, everyone, like, share, leave comments, show love. Let's embrace our special guest, the one, the only Candice Ward. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Me.
I need to have like my own little theme music playing.
Right. Welcome to Smoooth Conversations. Yes. It's great to have you. How are you doing today?
I feel great. And happy Father's Day coming up to
Thank you.
So yes.
And she already my homie, because she came to the house like arms like this. She had stuff. I'm like, let me get it. No, hold on, not yet. So she gave baby girl, shouts out to you, baby girl, love you. She gave her a book to read. She gave, what'd you get my wife?
A candle.
Okay, there you go, a candle. And then, boom, right here. So, no, it's not no beer. But
right.
it's a beer can glass and original pub mix. Mm-hmm. So, the little Chex mix, the whole nine. So, thank you.
To go with the bar.
There we go. To go with the bar. So, thank you for this incredible, thoughtful gift. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me. Just coming to talk and vibe with you is, truly a pleasure and also a privilege. So thank you for that.
Yes, my pleasure. So we had a brief discussion about it, but you and I originally met back in October, I believe, of last year, where I was part of the amazing Art and Soul event brought to you by Bill Darris. And this was so years back when I was a part of it, I DJ'd the event 2 times, actually. I've been a part of, 3 times now. But in the past 2 times I've been there, I was a part of just DJing. Mm-hmm. This one, I was DJing, but also we were debuting our business in regards to solid headphones. Yeah. So yes, if you need a solid headphone event, Smoooth Productions and Bill Darris, we got you.
Yeah.
And
the silent headphones is like, you listening to the music, nobody else,
They like, what? Why is she all crunk?
I was vibing, having a good time.
Right. Everyone was getting it.
Yeah.
And let me do one thing here. There we go. I want to add people on Instagram so now they can tune in as well. Nice. But yeah, you was one to one that you was straight enjoying the vibe. And for those who may not know about the solid headphones, it was 3 DJs, myself, Energy, and DJ Ace Boogie, I believe. So you had 3 different DJs, 3 different vibes. So I was playing like 90s, 2000 old school R&B.
Yeah.
Ace was playing, I believe, some current hip hop song, something like that. And then I believe Andy was playing more of the trap / reggae, vibe and everything. So you had different vibes going on.
Right.
So it was just amazing how on one side of the room you seeing people doing line dancing.
Right.
Another side you hear someone say, "Can we talk?" Then you're hearing some some Boosie, "Wipe Me Down."
Right. And folks just
right.
So, mind you, nobody's hearing except the folks that got the headphones.
Right. And then I knew that they had range, but I was told later on that if you ever been to the what's the hotel called? Angard Hotel. You leave from the rooftop and you have to go down the elevator, go through this small little way, and then go to a whole nother section where everyone else was at. And people were still hearing the headphones clearly.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah, because I was one of those people that was like, let me test it out. I'm gonna walk down here. I want to see if I can take the vibe with me.
Yeah. So you got people who, they listen to live music, live band or comedian or whoever else was on stage in a whole different area. But you seeing people with black headphones on with either green, red, or blue light just flicking on like because you're hearing different vibes.
Yeah. I was sending people upstairs too.
Yeah.
It was like, what you listen? I was like, go up there.
Right. Come on, get you a ticket and let's go. So thank you for, first enjoying the vibe. And I think Bill or someone posted a video on social media. And I was like, I think I saw her I think I recall her.
Yeah.
And then I just reached out to you and like, hey, how did you like the headphone party, the whole 9. And now we're here.
Here we are.
Then you came out to the Beat District radio event to find out that it's someone that is part of the Beat District Radio fam that you may know as well.
Shantae Love. Yes. So, that's my cousin. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There we go.
We have a similar last name in the family, so I'm pretty sure that's my cousin. But yeah, it was really me coming out to support Shantae Love, and that's my sister, cousin, friend.
So talk about how you two met and how everything has grown since then.
I hadn't even thought about that. How did we meet? Let me call. Can I call in a favor real quick?
So she might say, "Call me Smooth, add me on."
Right, add her in. But if I recall, the first time I met Shantae Love, it more than likely was in the doula space. So I'm also a doula, and for those of you who don't know, doula is a support person who helps families. It can be preconception, during pregnancy, during the postpartum period. So we provide emotional, mental, physical, and sometimes spiritual support. We help to advocate. We help to reduce, health disparities. And so more than likely we connected in that space. But Shantae Love, for anybody who knows her, is on a whole nother level, comedian and just such a great, just genuine person. And so we connected beyond that. And, I love music and art and all kinds of other things. It's just as our first introduction. And so we've connected in other ways.
Yeah. And just shouts out to her and shouts out to Taji as they hold things down bigger than the stage every Thursday from 12 to 1:30. They just got expanded recently to 1:30. Now back then they were just an hour long. Now it's an hour and a half. And their show is amazing. It's my midday enjoyment. They
are hilarious. They are laugh out loud. Yes. Hilarious.
They are.
And it just keeps getting better and better. Every time I listen in, I'm like, I'm supposed to be working. And I'm like, okay, I gotta tone it down. But yeah, they're amazing.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So shouts out to them. And once again, shouts out to just the whole Beat District family. You brought up earlier how you can tell how it's a family vibe with Beat District Radio. Yeah. Can you explain more of that?
Yeah. So my first introduction was the launch party for Beat District Radio. And I went with Shantae, or met up with her and some other friends. And first of all, the music, the mixes, all the DJs just collaborating and playing off of each other. That was just it was just amazing to watch that in real time. But then also too, because you have the crowd and, and it was a good mixed crowd. I think it was 30s and some younger and older, but everybody just came to dance and just, it was just just smiles and joy and, and so you couldn't help but just get wrapped up in that and just watching each and every one of you, supporting each other and promoting each other's shows and well, you got to catch this at this time. And this person does this great. And you really got the feel that, wow, this is a family. You all genuinely love music. You all want us to have a good time. You wanted us to, feel, welcome and good in the space. And so I feel like that's going to be the vibe of the summer. Folks need to make sure they check out y'all events on, what is that, the third Friday?
So yeah, we were doing every third Friday of the month. Things change. So that's why I say it's very important for y'all to lock in to Beat District Radio. Go to the website, beatdistrictradio.com, or just follow us on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Just put in Beat District Radio and stay up to date with what we got going on. Once again, Sunday Fun Day, June 22nd. It's going down, adults. Let's go. But yeah, so just going back. So brought up once again the head of the Art and Soul, and then the launch party, and once again realizing that you and Shantae, y'all got some history. So I'm like, okay, but it goes back to now, as I brought up before, what you're doing in life. But before that, I'd love to find out. You told me that you were born in Kansas, correct?
So I was so I grew up in Kansas.
Okay.
But I'm so St. Louis, y'all. I was born in St. Louis. I just didn't grow up here.
Got you.
And so, interesting thing, I would come for my summers, to spend time here with family, because I left here on my 7th birthday. So I went to a magnet school. I can't, because I'm in that perimenopausal stage and I can't remember a lot of stuff. But I remember I got an opportunity to go to school here, and it was so cool because I was in kindergarten and we was doing wood shop and we had music class and art and all that stuff. And so because my mom was in the military and she got stationed in Leavenworth, Kansas. So I went from living literally, we used to stay, across from what they call the Peabodys. That's what they used to call them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where I used to live. And my aunt used to walk me to school. We used to walk to the market over there, Soulard Market and all that. And so because my mom was stationed in Leavenworth, and we ended up going there. And it was a small town. It was a real small, and there was so in Leavenworth, everybody always is wait, where the prison is, because that's all they know about. Leavenworth is a maximum security prison. But there was Fort Leavenworth, where you had the military people that were stationed. We didn't live on the fort. I didn't have the military experience where you travel all the different places. I just got put in a little small town where it was a small number of folks that looked like us. But that's primarily where I grew up. And then I went to school here in the 5th grade, and then later on we moved back my sophomore year of high school, and so I've actually been here since then.
Got you. And we have a comment from David. It says, shouts out to Candice and Shantae, shining light and brightening lives.
Oh, thank you, David. I appreciate it.
There we go. So just seeing a comment like that, and once again, please feel free, everyone, bring them comments. You know what I'm saying? That's what this show's all about. Bring comments, share your stories. If you got anything funny that she be like, oh, why you bring it up?
Because my kids on here don't. I already know. Please don't scrap that. Save it for the book.
But yeah, so when you see a comment like what David just brought up, how does it make you feel?
You know what? I can say that I have a lot of gratitude. Like I wake up every morning, like just feeling like really full that I am surrounded by so many people that genuinely love me, whether it's family, whether it's friends, just the amount of support. Especially just, everybody has a story to tell. So coming from where I came from and coming from where my kids and our experience, just knowing that there are people that are just rooting for me, like in my career and the type of work that I'm, passionate to do, but also just wanting to see me succeed and, allowing me to be open to share like my love and my care for, just my community and for people in general. Like I like people. I mean, not everybody's great. I have a clear understanding. Not everybody has good intentions. Not all people are going to be great and have good intentions for you. But I am grateful that I have people that truly, genuinely are just, ride for me or correct me when I need to be corrected, pull me back, or, help to support. If I say, oh, I want to go do this, I have an idea, they're on the bandwagon, like, okay, well, this is the plan. This is how we can get it done. So I am immensely grateful that, I have people that truly love me.
That's amazing. And I'm glad that you brought that up. Talk about, especially in this society now with so much going on, how important is it with what you're doing with your business to be with people who won't just tell you whatever just to make you feel good, but to have people to say, no, hold on, don't do this. You don't want to have too many yes people.
Yeah.
You want to have people who are going to keep it 100 and say, no, don't, if you do this, that's not going to be a good look, or don't take this route, or don't feed into that. How important is it for you to be associated with people like that?
Yeah. I think when it relates to like my career, especially in the doula community, like you have, women and men who are in the space who are very caring to begin with, because we're caring for families. We're working with people when they're at their most vulnerable state. And they're allowing us to come in with, whether it be our expertise or whether it be our experience, to help to shape and mold the very beginnings of their family. And so when you have so many people that are in the space that are coming from that area of passion, I think that there are a lot of checks and balances. It's like, I'm not going to be able to not rest like I need to, or take care of myself without someone calling and checking and checking me to make sure, right. Hey, your foundation has cracks in it. You need to get yourself together so that you can go and do what you need to do for the community. So I think that that's important. And also not just in the doula space, because I'm also a community health worker. So that I see that happening as well. You have people that are just, full of a lot of like drive to just see others do well. And so they show up in that way. But also it's like, there's a level of understanding, like we're all adults, you have to make your own decisions. So there's only so much that I can do to kind of encourage you to maybe choose a route or maybe not choose a route or whatever. Right. But it's also having a level of comfortability to say, hey, maybe you may want to reconsider this, or maybe we can condense, or we can come together and think about some things that may be beneficial for you. So I see that in the folks that I work with, like I said, in the community health worker space. I mean, even just recently with the tornado and things that are happening with so many different families experiencing that, the first thing that they did was reached out to all the community health workers that were like in the state or in the area, just to say, hey, are any of you impacted? Let's make sure you are taken care of first before you jump out in the community, because they know we have a tendency to just kind of jump out in the community and start trying to help. So they wanted to make sure everyone was good, and different people have different roles. There's some people that are working behind the scenes. They may be volunteering time. They may be taking calls, helping like with mental health, helping with, young families, new families, helping with the elderly. So there's a lot of different places for people to support and help. And so that's, going into a lot of, outside of that question, but just to build on that, it is because I'm surrounded by so many genuine people. I trust their advice, and I trust the things that they say that could, help me, in whatever way it, is necessary.
And speaking of which, on behalf of Smoooth Productions, Beat District Radio, and I'm sure Sweetest Nectar LLC, just our condolences and prayers up to those affected by the recent tornadoes. Not even just the one that just happened recently, but the one that happened even where I'm at back on 314 day. People are still trying to recover, trying to rebuild, trying to just have a different mindset, because it's traumatic. And yes, our house was affected, not to the degree of others, but we're still going through certain things.
Right.
And for me to say, man, this happened and that, and we survived it, but we had minor damages. Just compare yourself to people who officially lost their homes. My neighbor, I finally was able to talk to him a little bit, and I asked him, I said, well, where y'all staying at right now? His insurance is having them stay at a rental property around, not that far from here.
Okay.
So
that's good.
But then he like, man, I just want to come back home.
And
he said they may not be able to get back up and running by having a house built until maybe September. So just imagine from March to September, possibly October, not being able to have your own home. So like I said, just prayers up. And there's been people on social media who's been trying to attack others who may not be as boots on the ground as others. Don't let people get to you, because there's so many ways to inspire, to be there for people. It doesn't always have to be in person, and you don't have to, oh, well, I got a brick, so now I'm officially helping out my community. There's so many ways to do so. You know what I'm saying? So just find your lane and do what you can. But also keep others lifted up in prayer. So just want to definitely go ahead and point that out. Now, you said that you came back to the Lou about sophomore year. So I got to ask the St. Louis question. Tell everyone what high school that you went to.
Roosevelt Rough Riders. South side.
Okay, Roosevelt. So when I found out, I said, I'm going to let her go ahead and get her thing out. So I don't want to ask out of respect the age, but I will ask what year.
Oh, what year did I graduate? 99.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're a year above me then.
Really?
Yeah. So,
oh man.
So I went to the public schools, probably feared school, Bashan.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was the Bashan, because we used to talk about Bashan and so
there we go. See, there we go.
Well, it ain't as bad. I was like, I don't know. Can I let me tell you my first
come on with it.
Introduction to Roosevelt High School, y'all. Okay. I am coming from Leavenworth, Kansas. Okay. I'm like, hey y'all, my name is Candice. I have a whole semi-country accent. And I get up to the school because my aunt was like, that's my alma mater. This is a great school. You got to go to Roosevelt. So I am like, okay, I'm already sad I'm here. I got to be here. I was trying to graduate from Leavenworth High School, but whatever. So I get to Roosevelt and I get up to the front, and it's like metal detectors when you first walk through the door. And I just walked through the door, and literally, I kid you not, like to my right, okay, it was two folks just, they just start fighting. And I was just like, in my mind, that song, Welcome to the Jungle, was like playing.
Wow, the whole.
I was like,
No, no, no,
what is happening? Right.
no, 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 no.
Like, this is not cool. But, I ended up, I enjoyed
I enjoyed
my time at, Roosevelt. I went, like, when I first started, like, when I opened my mouth, folks were like,
what?
Where are you from?
Right.
Why do you sound like that? And I was like, what are you talking about? Everybody sounds, because I grew up around folks that look like me in Leavenworth. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I sound like, whatever. I sound like all the Black people that I'm around. But after a while, two things. We had a choir with, oh man, somebody gonna get on here and be so mad at me from our choir director, how I just, his name just left my, Dello Thefford, Mr. Thefford, which, all the cool kids apparently were in the choir, and I got to be in the choir, and this is how you got into the choir with, Mr. Thefford. You would be in the classes, or you'd be out somewhere and you'd be talking, or you'd be singing or doing something, and he'd be like, you come here. And he'd start playing the keys, say, hit this note. And then he's like, okay, then you were going to be in that 6th hour or 7th hour, whatever class we were all in, where we was doing the singing. Mm-hmm. So that was one way that I met a lot of the folks that I like, even still love. Some folks I'm still close to this day. But also too, because we apparently had a cross country team that nobody knew about, because we had 2 girls that were on the team. And if I remember, they were like Somalian. So they were foreign,
right.
And so once I found out that they had a cross country team, and I just came from running cross country, I had applied and, worked with the coach. And so they had announced over the PA system, like, that we placed 3rd place, because I had ran and I came in 3rd place. And it was funny, because then as I'm walking down the hall, people were like, we got cross country. Who's Candice? What? We got a cross country runner. So it was hilarious. But that's how I had my introduction to Roosevelt High School.
So, similar story, which I've told on the show before, but in regards to my experience at the V, because I went to a small private Christian school, which like held maybe 200 people at the most.
See?
And then, but my family went to the V. So my mom went there, my uncles, cousins. See? So I've been going to the school, especially because of basketball.
Right.
So I've been there since I was a baby, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But I finally went to the school. So I didn't know about the school part. I just knew about sports.
Right.
So going to the high school, of course you hear, it's the V in the hood. So it's going to be like, Lean on Me.
Right.
Right. Fair East Side, all that.
Right.
And, but like you said, walking in to the main entrance, metal detectors.
Yeah.
Got to get patted down. Got to get checked, scanned,
Oh my gosh.
Felt like you was in TSA.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
But now you said on the right was someone fighting. You always spit that out. You said on the right that it was people fighting. But as soon as you walk in on the left at my school, it was a daycare.
Oh, yeah.
Nursery.
Yeah.
Because you had 13, you had about 14, 15, 16-year-old girls who already are starting off with the baby. Yeah. Which kind of helps this conversation that we're going to have later on in regards to what you do. Yeah. So when I say that, I was just like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm never shy to say this or afraid to say this. And I hope that for those who have kids who are in high school, that they hear this. But when I saw that, I didn't need to see that to confirm that. Yeah. But it was good for me to see that.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm not going to have sex in high school.
Yeah.
Because first, my mom wanted to make sure that I was at my school.
Yeah.
And my books and sports.
Yeah.
And one wrong night, one slip up could have affected my whole career.
That's true.
In regards to being in my books and being an athlete.
Right.
You know, I wanted to be a scholar athlete.
Yeah.
And I was. But I knew I had to go ahead and push away on, you know, no matter how fine you are, if you're the baddest one in the class or however kind of whatever you want to do.
Right.
Not tempting, but no, I couldn't do it because I didn't want to jeopardize what I had going on at Vashon for those 4 years, especially when I knew that me playing basketball, I had a very high chance if I was successful to get noticed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to jeopardize that by having a moment.
That is actually very, you know, that's actually amazing. Statistically, though, and unfortunately, just because of also the nature of what I do, when we think about teen pregnancies, we have to realize that often the girl may be underage, but often the man is not.
Right.
And so where you're speaking to like the daycare being there, you know, we had our own little drama with, you know, certain administrative folk at Roosevelt and young women. So I learned early on to stay away from certain older men who, you know, were very much known for getting young girls pregnant at the school. And it's just now starting to be conversations about that. So
that's crazy. That's not trying to say your age, but that's like about 28 years later.
Yeah. So with you having that drive to say, like, no, I have goals. There's time for me to do that. Right. But for right now, like, this is where my focus is. Not everyone, you know, has that motivation. And so sometimes, like, having your aunties and your uncles, you know, whether they're your aunties and uncles or not, but in the community that are helping to direct you to other activities and to other outlets can be very beneficial. Because like I said, often it's not, yes, it can be, you know, the younger folks and the kids together, but also understanding the dangers of, you know, certain ones that will prey on the fact that.
And it goes back to what we talked about in regards to your business, but having the right support system.
Yes.
And how I brought up earlier how my mom, like, I feared my mom. Kids nowadays don't fear their parents as they used to. They treat them like a homeboy, homegirl, you know, best friend, and not as a parent.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important, it's important to have that support system of people who are going to keep it 100 with you about, if you take this route,
right, this
can happen. And now you're set back.
Right.
Like my church member, Richie Williams, he said that he'd be having talks with his, with his younger son, and now because he's like a star football player, and he's getting offers in school, and you know you get bulked up, you know now, you know neck getting all big, muscles getting big, which means more attraction, more attention from females.
Right.
That once again, that one incident, could now affect him from going to possibly Wisconsin, Mizzou, Alabama.
Right.
And now he's stuck going to, no shade, but a community college.
Right.
Because now he has to raise a child.
And that's also why, here's a little, you know, thought, reproductive health justice, that there's a reason why there should be access to contraceptives and other choices and decisions. Let's not take those things away. So to drive home that point as well. Yeah. Yeah.
And just to add on to that, because I think, the last 2 years, they've been trying to have this law.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you hear the word abortion, how does it make you feel?
I feel like it is a choice, that it is allowing someone to have a choice, right? And whether you choose to have one or not, the fact that that person is able to get one is their choice. And if you choose not to, that is allowing you to make a choice to take another pathway. But unfortunately, I feel that people often want to take their own personal, like what they would do or how they view the world, and put that on other people who have completely different circumstances, completely different experiences, completely different access. And I cannot have a serious conversation with anyone who has like a certain belief system of like, hey, I'm pro-life. But then when I sit down and talk to them about, well, we don't have universal like healthcare really. Like we don't have paid time off for men and women to take time off and spend time with their families. We don't have a good childcare system that is affordable, and we have a high price. Our economy is extremely, inflated at this time. And we have children that are dying and they are in abusive and horrible situations. So if we're not having real conversations about solutions over here, then you're disingenuous about your belief system. And it's just it's almost like to make a person feel better about their values and their choice.
Right.
And their choice is like, and I say this all the time, I may never choose to go this route, but I would never, ever, ever put myself in a position to hold someone else from doing what they need to do for their family. That's not a compassionate or that's not a way of really showing that you care about humans.
And then my thing is, what I would like to say is, for those who want to make certain laws or whatever, well, how would you feel if it was your sister, or if it was your daughter, or if it was your whoever that, like, as you brought up, some people, well, maybe they wanted it. Others could have been raped. Yeah. Could have been, whatever it was. Yeah. A person, like you said, should have the decision.
Or a medical emergency. Like there are a lot of reasons for people to be able to have the choice without there being barriers to causing harm either to that family or sometimes to that woman or that birthing person who may need to make a decision. And now we're trying to determine what the laws and what could happen if this doctor or clinician assists. So it gets very, it is a very deep topic, and it becomes very emotional for people. But it's important for us to have the conversations, because for me, being in this field as someone who helps and supports like the longevity of a family's lifespan. So I'm working to reduce infant mortality. That is essentially what I do as a doula. That is essentially what I do as a lactation consultant. And as someone who is actively working to decrease those disparities, I also need to see solutions behind how do we support these families once this baby is here. And there's just it's not a real effort. It's just, it's a means of keeping us divided and fighting over this one point. Then we never really move the needle to create any solutions that actually help everyone.
Mm-hmm. Got a comment from David. Says, you think people who are pro-life would be more for providing contraception than anyone outside of prevention? Right.
Prevention and providing some resources, but it usually goes over their head. And often when we lose that access, those are the first things to go. The education in high schools and to the teens, and the access to contraceptions usually disappear.
Shouts out to Charmin Beck. Says, great conversation. We appreciate it. There we go. So yes, Charmin, thanks for tuning in. Share this stream. Let's get even more people tuned in and be part of Smoooth Conversations at this time. So going back to Roosevelt, what was your biggest takeaway from being at Roosevelt?
My biggest takeaway is that regardless of where you planted your roots or where your feet were planted, the sky is the limit. You can achieve and do whatever you need to do as long as you have some focus or determination to achieve those goals. You don't necessarily need to know where you're going to go or whether you're going to be successful, but just have the idea that, or just have the mindset that you are going to succeed at whatever it is that you do. Because when I tell people like, hey, I graduated from Roosevelt, they're like, Roosevelt?
Right. That's cool. Those Rough Riders.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, when DMX came out with.
Right.
So, yeah.
Sing our song. Stop.
Drop. That was the Roosevelt theme.
Lord.
Yeah.
So you said it's choir, correct?
Yeah, I sang in the choir.
What else did you partake in at Roosevelt? Were you into sports?
So I did cross country and I ran track.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a runner. Yeah, I did volleyball before I got to high school, but I never revisited it once I got to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So matriculating, I love using that word, from Roosevelt, what college?
Oh, this is
wait a minute. She came with the
So I did not go to college after high school because I got married when I was 18.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about it.
And not to say that you can't go to college, you know, once you get married, but it wasn't as feasible for me in that marriage. It's just, you know, and I did, and I not to say that I haven't done some college. It's just that that's not the pathway that I took in order to get here.
Yeah. And it's totally fine. You know, people have different pathways. As long as, once again, you're still trying to find a way to be, to make a positive impact in this world. Yeah,
because I got grown kids. So if we start doing that math, it's like, oh, you somewhere in there. So, yeah. So I had my son, my first son at 19. So I literally graduated and, you know, rushed to get married and I had a baby.
So that's what I want to ask you about. So being 18, of course, you know, young ladies love to say, oh, I'm 18, I'm grown, I know everything. So looking back at it now, what was the reason, or was there a reason that you went to get married at an early age?
Oh, because I thought I was grown and I left home. I should have stayed my butt at home. And I was, you know, I left home and I met my ex-husband and then, you know.
So was it, because a lot of people would say, well, some would say, I don't want to put everyone in the same boat. Some would say that, well, because we had a kid, now let's get married.
Well, I was, yeah. I mean, pretty much I was pregnant. And so I'm not going to say this on the air. I have written this out. So at some point, y'all will get the full story. But just, you know, at the time, it really seemed like the right thing to do. It wasn't like I'm an ex Jehovah's Witness, so I was not at the time. Like I was just, you know, just a young mom. But the argument really to me was like, hey, why would I ever want to like have a baby out of wedlock? And, you know, so I was like, that makes sense, you know, and I feel that for a lot of, at least for my generation and from what we were seeing with the changes in our families, that the most important thing for me was just to preserve my family, like provide some stability for, you know, the child that was, you know, going to be here and for my children for later on. So to just be really transparent, I wanted to preserve my Black family, you know, and there were a lot of stereotypes that I was dealing with also too, that, you know, we don't ever get married and we don't stick together and we don't support or whatever. Now, could I have had, maybe somewhat had some support and not got married? Probably. And that more than likely would have been a better route, because I didn't come on this couch to trauma dump, but the environment and the family structure for me and my kids was not the healthiest.
And that's why it goes back to what we said earlier about having that support system.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is so crucial. So for those watching right now, it is so crucial.
Yeah.
You can start right now and be like, I need to have a better support system. What can I do, or how can I, reach out or whatever? Because you don't have to do everything alone.
No, you don't. And sometimes, I'm bold, in my 40s. Like, I just tell young people, go to the older people and ask them, like, for real, like, okay, now tell me the real about this person. Because if I would have had enough sense to be like, hey, tell me a little bit more about this person's childhood versus what you're getting, that the story or their vision of themselves. I think sometimes we gotta just pull people aside and be like, hey, so tell me some stories about childhood, and then start listening with ears where you're actually looking for green flags, not where the red flags start pinging and you're like, but I can save him or whatever. So,
and then we're getting to a point in life with society is that it's a very toxic nature now.
Yeah.
In which people are embracing the red flags.
That's true.
And settling for the red flags. I remember back in the day, not saying that everyone was pure, but I feel like to me, you heard more of the my body, my temple.
Yeah.
And now that you don't hear that no more. Yeah. It's just kind of like you give up your body before you even tell someone your name. Yeah.
But I would even go further than that, because when I think back to the conversations that I had as a young person versus the conversations that I have as a parent with my children.
Right.
The level of openness and safe space that I create for them to talk to me about everything. So to some degree, can I show up as a friend? There are times I need to show up as a friend. There are times I need to show up to listen, but I always show up as a parent first. Right. So there's where we understand, like, my role as a parent, but me allowing them to have real conversations with me and me having real conversations with them as well. So when I, to be fair, for folks who have gotten into situations where they're like, well, I just didn't really know, or I did, or there were flags there, but how would you know fully what red flags are if this was the example? And you were also told, like, especially as a woman, like, these are the expectations of you. Don't worry too much about what's going on here, because man gonna be a man or whatever. And so we also have to take into account some of the upbringing and some of the conversations, even around mental health, and talking to, like, a therapist or a counselor. Like, that has always been swept under the rug. So if you ever found yourself in a relationship with someone and you question things, it was like, but what goes on in your house goes on in your house. You don't tell nobody. So coming from that generation versus now of, like, a lot of the larger decisions that I made, as an adult while my kids were there, I set them down and was like, okay, well, this is what's happening now, or this is the next step, or how do y'all feel about this? Or so it's just from my own experience, I had to pivot and make adjustments to my parenting style, because the way that, I was parented was of that age. And I recognize that, okay, that doesn't work if we want to have children who are sound in mind, who are, who are contributors to, our community and to society, and also who can make better decisions about who their friends are. Because that's where it starts. If you have folks making fun of you and not being good friends and talking crazy to you when you was a kid, I'm not going to believe you're going to be able to make good decisions with
your friend.
Right. you know,
that's
exactly.
They ain't your friend.
They ain't your friend. So I don't expect you to make good decisions later on if this is what your whole sum of your life, this is what you were exposed to.
Yeah. And I'm not sure this anal or not, but in regards to like going back to my younger years, I never got when women would say they see someone who look good. Oh, I'm gonna have his baby.
I never said that a day in my life, but I heard it before.
Man, I'm like, what? Oh, I want to have about 10 of this. You know what I'm saying? But then you get what you asked for, and then now you're mad. Oh, this man ain't nothing. Or he's the scum of the earth, or whatever it is. But as I said in previous shows, be careful what you wish for or ask for.
Yeah, because I feel so another thing. The whole idea of having a baby for a lot of people is cute, like having this baby, whatever. And I love the shift in culture today. And this is, once again, going back to why I love being a doula. Showing up for families, but also the real and raw conversations that we have about, you know what, this is what pregnancy really looks like, you know, for you. This is what postpartum, you know, it takes 18 to 24 months to really heal after you have a baby. So the conversations that should have been had with grandma and auntie and mama, and some of those conversations where it was just like, well, women's health is not really discussed and studied that much in healthcare, in the medical field in general. There's not a lot of like, you know, there wasn't a lot of breakdown. There's certain things in the medical field, like in those who are doulas, like they know they didn't talk about a lot of things that happen to do with like women and hormonal changes and all of that. And so watching the culture shift to where we're having conversations about being prepared. How do you prepare your body and your mind and your soul prior to you giving birth? Having conversations about, man, if we see that Black women are at a higher risk of mortality, like 3 to 4 times higher, I'm having conversations with some women who are saying, like, you know what, I've made a decision that because of my health issues, I don't necessarily want to have children, or I may want to look into some other avenues to ensure as much as possible that I can have the best possible outcome. So I just love that we are having more transparent conversations about it. I love that, you know, we are coming together as, you know, as these sister circles to, you know, that are involving the men, because for the longest time, men were also pushed out of the birth space. It was like, you know, if we do a quick history of like the worst disparities for our community happened for us the moment we went to the hospital and started birthing. Up until that point, we were using midwives. We were using our granny or our grand midwives. And these were the women who had the knowledge to deliver babies. They brought that knowledge over from Africa. So I don't care what anybody tell you. We came over here with knowledge to birth babies. They were saving all the babies, you know, on the plantation. We were an agriculturalist nation. So we came over here with skills. But I say that because we understood what sort of herbs and what sort of nutrition and how to wash our hands and keep things clean and boil water. And so even in the worst of places, like in some of the poorest places in the South, we saw that these midwives were saving countless lives for the women and for their babies. And they were promoting breastfeeding. Like that was also a huge part of our legacy, that those babies were receiving the milk, which was allowing their immune systems to kick in. So it led to a greater lifespan. So I talk a lot about like me being a doula, but also like in the lactation space, the reason why I've been so passionate about it is because I see how it reduces like mortality, how it is beneficial, it's helpful for families, how it increases bonds. And then I also get an opportunity to see like how these families like bond together, like, you know, like watching, like during a birth, watching the men who come in and support their partner and just like watching like the love and the joy that's happening between them. Like that's like one of the first time I really got to watch like love, like Black love in action, like watching some of the families that I had an opportunity to support and just, so I clearly love.
And that's what I want to bring up next is what occurred in your life, because everyone has a reason why they do this.
Yes.
So what occurred in your life that led you to want to become a doula?
So we're going to do the roundabout story, because my pathway to becoming a doula started in lactation. I was a mom who chose to breastfeed my kids during a time where there were not a lot of, there were women who were breastfeeding. There weren't as many women that, you know, looked like me that I could be like, hey, here's an example of whatever. You know, I wasn't breastfed. So it's not like I had the generation where I could go back to mom, like, hey, what are some things that I need to do and tips? So I did the research on my own and determined that that would be the best route for me to feed my children. I remember seeing like 2 women in my life that I had met throughout life. And I remember that they fed their babies that way. And I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's exactly what they're made for, you know, outside of other things. But this is the essential part of when the babies show up. So it was that pathway of nursing my own children. And we had a situation where I had a question about something that was happening with my first son. And so I called the pediatrician and I was like, hey, this is and I'm breastfeeding. And I was asking him a question and they were like, well, we don't know, call the OB. And so then I called the OB, call my doctor, and they were like, oh, well, the pediatrician can answer that. And I was like, I remember I was sitting there and I was looking like, you know, at my ex-husband at the time. And I was like, who's the go-to person that knows all about the breastfeeding and the lactation stuff? I need to find that person. And so later on, I was introduced to the WIC program. And often like the WIC program is Women, Infants, Children program. They provide like nutritional support to families. And so you would get like the WIC checks, you would get formula. But for some of the programs, and not all of them, because the peer counselor program is federally funded, but some of the programs have dedicated like breastfeeding support. And so they utilize someone from the WIC program or a woman from the community who can educate other pregnant moms and help them with like basic breastfeeding support. So I'd met someone and she was another mom and we had connected like after learning about the WIC program and she had talked to me and actually introduced me to a breastfeeding peer counselor. And this lady was the nicest, most like go drive to your home and drop off a pump and go help you. And I was just like, wow, like she's just, I'd love to, you know, learn how to do that. Now the sad thing about her, like she's no longer here. She actually got in an accident like right before I decided to like go into the field. So I always thought I would have an opportunity like, hey, I'm a breastfeeding peer counselor now. But you know, she had lost her life in an accident. So, but she was like how she approached it and her care and her desire just to like help others. That was what inspired me to like really push to become a peer counselor. And I started with now it's called Affinia, but it was Grace Hill back in the day, Grace Hill Health Center. Right. So I was with a Grace Hill WIC program. Okay. I started with them and we had, I was under AC Staples and Kristen Gore, who were, at the time, AC was the director over the program. And then later, Kristen became the manager and then the director over the program once he retired. So that was like my pathway into like the lactation space, is just being a breastfeeding peer counselor. And then from there, I would help a lot of our families. I always try to make sure I printed out like the most updated research and like information, because I would always find that when I would send them to their doctor and it would be stuff like, oh, you have to stop breastfeeding because of this medication, or they would miss things like thrush, or it would just, different things would be happening. I'm like, okay, well, take this to your doctor and tell them like, this is what's happening. And, but what I found out is that, for one, we didn't have a lot of like skilled, lactation professionals of color, basically, that of Black women. And then two, our providers are not really required to do extensive lactation education. So they may get a little bit, but it's not anything that is required. And so often they would, like, I'm like, I learned this back when I first started, like, I took a training before I became a peer counselor. I'm like, I learned this, and I'll be looking it up and looking at the studies, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they telling you to do that? So it pushed me to want to be like basically the expert in the field. But so the breastfeeding peer counselor, like your CLCs, like your breastfeeding educators, all of that group of folks are usually like providing like basic support, and they can recognize like maybe certain issues, and then they usually refer. And then the IBCLC is an international board certified lactation consultant, and that means that I can practice anywhere in the world as a lactation consultant, because it's recognized world over. But it is for like the higher issues, when we are having like a failure to thrive, or there's an issue with weight, or working with the doctor to come up with like solutions while I'm working with that mom. So started with that like lactation space.
Right.
And then, because I was in that birth world, I knew of doulas and I was familiar, but I didn't have a desire to really, really become a doula until I understood that there were postpartum doulas. And so I went to an event, and they were talking about the different type of doulas. And then they start talking about what a postpartum doula does. And this is someone who comes in after the birth and cooks your food and massage and, and helps you with feeding the baby and takes care of the family and helps with, getting the house organized, maybe doing laundry and putting yourself. And I was like, I needed that. I needed that person. And so I just remember, like, I got goosebumps when I first started hearing like what a postpartum doula was. And I was like, okay, I'm lactation and I can add the postpartum doula. And so I just did some more research and eventually decided to do both, like do birth. Like, I trained for birth and postpartum, but I only practiced as a postpartum doula initially. And there were a lot of birth doulas that were starting to like pop up during that time, because that was like around 2017. But there was only like a handful of postpartum doulas. And interestingly, my first clients a lot of them were doulas. Yeah, they were like, wow. I like your philosophy and I would like for you to come in and help, and support. And so, I was the doula's doula, helping and supporting, and eventually expanded to like birth. And, like I said, I had doulas that, practice, and I was their doula. And then I just expanded and I had friends that I, showed up as a doula for, and then I eventually just branched out and
so
doing more.
For those who may be interested in being a doula, is there any type of educational experience that's required?
Yeah, there's trainings that you can sign up to do. If you're in St. Louis, I would encourage you to sign up for virtuous. Hold on, let me get it together. Virtuously Birth Doula. What is it? Doula training. I'll say it again. Virtuously Birth Doula training. Okay. My sister Lakeisha, who is a doula and also a community health worker, has the most extensive training that I have ever seen, because you're not just doing a couple of weeks. It is a long training, but you are going to be in the hospital. You're learning how to work and collaborate, not just for going into the home and provide care. You're learning how to pivot when this person is induced or they have to go back to the OR and now there's a C-section, which we're going to stay with them the whole time, whether they deliver at home or in a birthing center, or whether they are going back for a C-section. That doula can stay with them for the whole entire time. So what did I say?
just talking about the way it's education required for being a doula.
So going through one of the trainings, but I'm going to suggest, but hands down, my doula sister's training, also because she's collaborating with a doula lab as well. And so the doula lab are my doula sisters that are on the Illinois side. So shout out to the Illinois doulas and the Missouri doulas. But they work collaboratively, and they're educating on both sides. And while we're talking about different doula programs, we won't leave out the dads as well. There's also the Dads to Doula training program, which is specifically supporting the dads to help and learn how to advocate and learning the same things that a lot of the pregnant, their partner would be learning. And so we have some phenomenal programs. We have a very connected community.
That's what's up. So going back to this comment here from Charmin, says Candice came to help me with latching issues and her experience for me through a rough time with feeding my newborn. She gave me the confidence that made my daughter and I thrive with breastfeeding.
Yay.
Got me through.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to bring up too, because I'm learning as you're, as you're telling me in regards to exactly what a doula is. And it can be a very, what's the word I want to say, pressurized situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leading into, like you said, the pregnancy and then postpartum.
Yes.
So speak from your experience, as I think about it. Has there been a moment where a situation may have been overwhelming that you was like, oh man, this one is a tough one?
There have been a few where it was overwhelming, but we talk a lot about like how doula work can very much seem like being a first responder,
right?
Because we can witness very traumatic situations. Sometimes whether it escalated medically or whether the hospital staff and like the climate that's happening in the room is just being very oppressive to the mom who is, or the birthing person that's in that space, because we have folks that, may not identify as a woman who is a birthing person and being in that space. Or sometimes when we have some women who are going into a hospital and they're not being listened to, or there are decisions that are being made that are not beneficial to them and they're not allowing them to like advocate or ask questions. So sometimes we can be, in those uncomfortable scenarios. And I just always use tact. I had, like, for instance, like something that was a little bit more minor. I met, I was meeting one of my clients in the hospital, and she was ready to deliver, and the doctor wasn't quite there yet. And she says, like, she starts saying like, I'm ready to push. Like, I feel like I need to push. And so, and there was one of the nurses that kind of walks past, and she's like, oh, well, your doctor is not here, yet. And so I see her like getting like kind of flustered because she's looking like, whoa, no, I need to push. And I'm not going to be like, you don't need to, hold that baby and push that baby out. So I just, I looked at her and looked at the nurse and I said, so what happens if she needs to push right now? And the nurse is like, well, I have over 21 years. And if she needs to push, then she'll be able to, I'll be able to catch that baby. So then I turned to her and I said, you see that? She'll be able to catch the baby if you need to push. So if you feel like you need to push now, go ahead. So it's like little moments where it's like, that was totally like you throwing off the vibe in here because she's trying to have a baby and you creating more stress. But then we have some that will escalate often because it's an emergency. I had one because so to give a little history of kind of who I work with. Yes, I'm a private entity. I work with the On Up program, which is a doula program through SSM. Mm-hmm. We work with the Wish Center, which we help patients with substance use disorder. We work with the maternal fetal medicine center. So that is for our high risk. And so we're not just, I think sometimes when people think of doulas, they're like, oh, the person that just comes in with the instance and they just, sing. And it's like, it's the time and place for that to create like this calm,
atmosphere.
And we try to keep it as calm as possible, regardless of where they birth. But there are times where we are really working with high risk patients, and it can be very helpful for them, especially when we're working with those who have substance use disorder and they feel like they don't have like a lot of support, because often they're users or they were users because of things that happen in their life, because of a lack of support, because of, just circumstances in their life that have led them to that path. And having someone come in that does not have a judgment on what decisions they've made. My role is to help you and to have and help you to bond with your baby and have, the best possible experience, and possibly from this experience, then make some different choices, but not to judge you in this moment. So helping in that case, I had a situation where one of my doula clients was going in for a scheduled C-section, and she hadn't had a doula be in the OR with her ever before. And so I explained to her what that would look like. And so she, after the whole experience, what she said to me, she was like, even though I knew I was going in for a C-section and I had those before, she was like, this was so different because you held my hand the whole time. You went back with me before my partner was able to come back. And she's like, I wasn't worried. Like she said, usually he would go and check on the baby and then I'm here and I don't know what's going on. And she's like, you were speaking affirmations and talking to me and helping me. So even in that, environment, that scenario, a doula can be very instrumental just mentally and emotionally if the mom is together mentally. That means her healing and that postpartum recovery is going to go smoother for her.
Right.
So there's so many different, there's been times where it's been challenging, but thankfully I've been able to work through and I haven't had I've had some moments where I caught something before it became a scare, where I did have a situation where we could have possibly lost that mom. But it's just like once everybody left and I was watching her and I was like, something ain't right. In the moment, I just started calling them back in, I need y'all to check her. I need her to check. And she got rushed back in enough time.
That's amazing.
It can be a you have to ground yourself.
Yeah. You
have to take time, after you come from a birth. I usually will shower, have a whole routine. I might stand in the grass, without my shoes on and just ground myself and take a moment to decompress and release any of the energy that happened in that space before I go to see the next family or before I go to work with the next person.
So with that being said, and thank you for just being transparent, sharing it, because the people who's watching, I know it means a lot to them, and I love having this conversation. Do you think, one, that the experience that you have gone through as a doula, that needs to be brought? You know how they say in school how they don't teach about credit and stuff like that. Do you feel what you're doing needs to be brought up more in school? Have people go out to talk to young ladies. And young boys too, because they need to know what's going on too. Because these students, this youth, they see so much other things, but they aren't being told the reality.
Yeah. Well, it's, they took out all the home ec,
right,
so it's like, I think we were a little bit more equipped, at least for the practical means of like cleaning and making sure you take care of your household and knowing how to cook and do all that. Like, they completely took all of that out of schools. And I had an opportunity to, when I worked for Affinia, we targeted high schools to go in and talk to them about breastfeeding, because we had young mothers who were getting pregnant. And so talking to them about the benefits and, how, it could help them with recovery. And what I found was that when we did that education, I often would have like these teen moms would be traveling back and forth to school with these big old, because we had these big, huge pumps, early on. But they would have these big old blue Latina pumps, is what we call them, or the brand. And they were okay to they would let the nurse know, hey, I got to make sure I take these breaks to pump, whatever. Once they learned about the benefits, we would see the same thing happen when we would bring the dads in and when we would bring grandmas in, because especially in our culture and community, often the reason why a lot of Black women are not as successful is because if their mother did not, and she's opposed to it, it creates obstacles, because then they don't have realistic expectations for how often this baby needs to be fed and how much they need to eat. So it's let's put cereal in the bottle, or the baby should be sleeping through the night, which all of those things should not be happening for especially a new baby. They definitely do not. And they never need to have cereal in the bottle, ever. We need to have cereal in the bottle. Okay. So, it was just dispelling those myths and sitting down. And sometimes when I would just sit with the grandma and just talk to her and ask her about her birth story and talk to her about what happened to her and why she chose not to breastfeed, then we often learned that it was systematic, like through the healthcare system. Oh, they gave the baby a bottle, or they told me I wasn't going to be able to, or I was trying to get back to work. And so when they realized that this is something that was taken away from me, and my grandbaby has an opportunity to experience this, then it would change some of their ideas, like their whole mind frame around it. So, so that has been impactful. And I would love to see that happen with birth and, with just caring for our bodies and reproductive health and all of that in schools.
Second, Never Let Them See You Sweat, a song by Nelly.
Yeah.
Which I take to a lot of things that I do. Once again, for those who didn't see the beginning, I do so much in regards to my production company. And it's very important at a job or at your profession to put aside what you're going through personally to please your client or to please the customer, whoever it is. Talk about from your experiences how much you have to put aside whatever you have going on personally, so you can be that perfect soundboard for a mother who's about to have a baby or after the mother had the baby.
Well, definitely in the doula space, like I would never come into a space where someone is about to deliver and not be 100% together. And there's also we have a really close-knit community where if I've had times where I just was not feeling well and I just couldn't do it. I was sick. And then I had to reach out to my doula community to get a backup doula in order to come and help. So you really, I do things, like I said, just to release and make sure that when I go in that space, I know that, this is important. I have a little, a ritual that I do whenever I know that I'm going into a birth. I always light a candle just to encourage a safe voyage. It's almost like lighting the way for the baby to come. And I usually will reach out to some of my doula sisters and be like, hey, I'm going, if I say I'm going to a birth now, some of them have reached back out to me and they'll say, I lit a candle for you because I know that. It's interesting though, because when you ask that question, it originally made me think back to when I worked in WIC, because now I was married for 21 years. So during that time, I showed up, in, like you would never know what was going on at home in regards to how I showed up for my families. In as much so that when, I had to have a sit down and like, hey, this is the reality of what has happened or I've experienced. I've had like folks that were like, when I was really close, like I'm still really close with the WIC manager, but having that conversation, like I would have never thought or knew that, because you always showed up like for our moms in our community. You never was in a nasty attitude or treated them any kind of way. And my philosophy behind that was just because they don't deserve to be treated that way. Like they didn't do anything to me. If anything, they're coming to me, and this is a part of my light. This is a part of me being able to share my gift and share a passion and a purpose where I know where I'm supposed to be. So I'm not going to cause additional harm to someone who's coming to me to receive like help,
right,
even though something is very traumatic is happening to me during this very same time.
So as you were telling me about your experience as being a doula, I thought about your girl Shantae Love. Because just when you telling me like you have a calming presence on the Shantae Love that I know, I can see her, what I'm saying, being a positive influence, but I can see her kind of like, what I'm saying, being a jokester at the same time. But so I may be wrong, but enlighten me from just your experience. What have you seen in regards to how she conducts her business with mothers?
That's a great question, because this is another thing about understanding that I'm a seasoned doula in the space. Because when Shantae Love was helping and supporting one of her moms, she reached out to all of us. She was communicating with all of us, like, this is my, thoughts on this, and I'm going to go do this at this time. And we're like, yeah. So we were just being like her cheerleader, and just the level of just like her reassuring, and that side of her that is very like mothering, because she's also a mother as well. So just being able to like show up and ease someone's concerns and fears, because often we're really just confirming that person's greatness, that their ability, like it's like trusting your body to do what we know it's capable of doing. Often we're being a cheerleader, we're being a coach, we're being someone who they're like, okay, have you experienced this before? And if that person that they're working with hasn't experienced that before, they got a whole tribe of folks at like 1 o'clock in the morning, we on a call, just discussing, because that's how we show up for each other. So and we all have different philosophies. I've had times where we were in the like I've had clients and we were dancing and cracking jokes, because that was what she needed. That's what her husband needed to get through that. So we were laughing, we were working through it, because she had an unmedicated birth. So sometimes the beautiful thing about us having like a variation of our emotions and our personalities is that, our clients, or soon to be clients, they meet with us ahead of time. They get to choose if they want to get, the Candice experience or the Shantae Love experience, or, whoever, one of our wonderful doulas that's working. So they get an opportunity to meet with several doulas and interview and decide, oh, this is the one that I want working for me.
You brought up situations where you may be dancing with, with the mother and father. Talk about you being received by the fathers.
So early on when we do, so I have this kind of my system. I do an introductory call first with the mom or whoever's reaching out to me for the services. And then we do prenatal education. So I have virtual visits that we do. And then I have one that we do in person to do like our comfort measures. And then we have a follow-up to do like get us ready for the postpartum period. And so I usually will tell them, whoever's going to be in there with you, whether it be your partner, your husband, your mama, whoever, like, let's get them on that first call because we're talking about their preferences and we're discussing. But I also give them an option that before they even sign the contract, I'm like, if your husband or your partner has questions, let's get on another call so I can answer that for them. So often when I meet with the dads and they're like, okay, they're like, well, what is a doula? Like, I have a whole like little folder that I have like with videos, and the videos are other dads saying, this is what a doula is, and this is how you show up, you know, so it's not just coming from me. I'm like, hey, this is your own personal resource that you can use. And then I also talk to them about what my role is. And I think that that is the part that puts them at ease because this is not my birth. This is their life experience, and I want them to have the best possible, you know, experience. So it is not for me to come in to make decisions that are not aligned with how they want to, you know, experience this welcoming of the new baby. And so I usually will kind of explain that, you know, if you need me to come in and do comfort measures, I'm gonna come in and do comfort measures. But you hugging her and you touching her, that's gonna increase more of the hormone oxytocin, which helps you all to bond. So the more that you're here to do more that, present. Right, then that's gonna help her to, you know, ease some of that discomfort of the contractions. And I jump in when I need to, but I don't get in the way. I don't block. I don't jump in before. If you ever have to call me and ask something, you have a question, you know, I'm there as a resource. So it's helping them to understand that I'm not taking the place of what you should be doing, but I am helping you to understand how do you fit into this birth, you know, space, into this world. Because like I said, often men were not invited into it, or depending on what he saw coming from other men, that is going to shape how he thinks he's supposed to show up, you know, as a father. So I'm saying, hey, you get a clean slate. I'm going to give you these resources. I'm going to give you not only like resources from other dads, but I know some other dads. I know some doula dads that you can talk to if you need to talk to. So it's nice to be able to have like have that conversation. That's my favorite part, like helping them understand, like, oh, look what you get to do. Exactly. And because they really, I feel like men get an opportunity to rest in that role of being a protector and being a provider. And when you're watching the person that you love in a lot of pain and trying to work through something, there's a feeling sometimes of like helplessness, like, well, what do I need? What do I do? Right. So helping them to be prepared and understanding that, you know, just you being present is helping her to, you know, and making sure that you're advocating. If that's how she wants to birth, then you advocating and making sure that no one is derailing her from that experience. Then, you know, so that I love it.
and I can just tell the passion. It just comes out. You know what I'm saying? You have a glow about it. And that's what it's all about. Once again, this is Smoooth Conversations, where the conversations are always smooth. Got the one, the only.
Candice Ward.
There we go. Let them know. Once again, feel free, y'all, to continue to share, leave comments. Scan the QR code, connect with Smoooth Productions. You can save me as a contact. You see the website. You see different links to my social media. And everything you need to know is right there in the palm of your hand once you scan the QR code. So let's continue on. Once again, this amazing conversation in regards to being a business woman. she said, let's first talk about Sweetest Nectar LLC. Talk about it.
You know what? So one thing that I didn't talk about is how did I come up with this name? And honestly, in my mind, like, and I remember like being on a call, like with two of like my trusted sisters. You know, I got sisters that I love, but they be sisters from other mothers. And I was like, I'm thinking of naming this Sweetest Nectar. And I had this whole thought process because I was like, to the baby, it's the sweetest nectar because breast milk is sweet. And it's like a nectar, like you think about the nectar of life. So I was like, I'm gonna put this together. And I could have been like, oh, Candice Ward, IBCLC practice, or more boobs for babies or whatever. But I'm glad that I chose like a name that was just kind of like, once you explore, then you're like, oh, that's like when I would go to lactation groups, I was like, that ties in perfectly. But then when I started adding like doula services and everything to it, it's just like, okay, yes, I like that the focus is like, I want these babies to get the sweetest nectar, but I got an opportunity to branch out and show you that I used to joke like I worked above the belt because it was only nursing the baby. And then when I became a doula, it was like everything. I was like, what? So that's how I initially got the name for that. And I had thought about at some point, like just trying to determine if I would ever want to like work for myself. But really, the way that I started working in private practice was, for one, I was going through a divorce. I went through my divorce. It was like a restart, a reset in life. And I was like, oh, now I have the availability to pour some energy into seeing clients, privately. That's also part of the reason why I did the doula training, because once again, I was like, oh, now I have, some time that I can look into, like some passions and things that I would have wanted to do. And so that just all came together, even though one area was falling apart. It was like, I have an opportunity to show up for my families in another way. And so I was working part-time in my private practice and slowly building that while I was still working as a peer counselor for WIC. Now in 2011, so just to go back, I became an international board certified lactation consultant. So I'd worked in WIC for like 2 years. And interestingly, my supervisor came to me at the time and she was like, hey, they have this thing through the state and they're going to pay for your 45 hours at the time, for you to get your lactation hours. And how much schooling do you have and how many mentorship hours? And I was like, I was taking there's like 3 different pathways you can take to become a lactation consultant. And so I told her I'm going pathway 2. And she's like, but you already have mentorship hours. And I think that you might want to look into seeing if you'll be ready to do this training. And so as a result, I went ahead, did the training and sat on the exam and ended up passing the exam before I finished school. Wow. Because I had enough of the health science, like the hours and the credit that I needed in order to get through that point. So I always tell her, I was like, that was a blessing in disguise, because some things happened like within like the next 6 months. And I had to discontinue my time at school, but I was already actively an IBCLC. So, it would have been a long time before I had an opportunity to go back and do some other things. So I was like, you came in at the right time to tell me like, hey, I need you to, and I thought I wasn't going to be ready. I honestly thought I was not going to pass the exam. And I was like, it's going to tell me I need to, need to, study some more in these areas or whatever. And I actually got a really good score. And I was just like, oh, and she was like, I told you, know your stuff. I just need you to like believe that you know your stuff. And so that's, eventually I, started the private practice in, I believe it was like 2018, because I did my training, doula training in 2017, and then became a full-time entrepreneur, like most folks around, like after COVID and all of that was happening. Then in 21, I went into private practice and, stepped away from working in the WIC department. My divorce was finalized at the time. So it was just like, I was just like, whoa, 21. And I just turned 40. I was like, oh, all this stuff happening at one time. But I was ready for it. Like, I was just like, I'm ready for the change. And I had got accepted. Are you familiar with Rung for Women?
It's like familiar.
It's a program to help women to like make more money and to like support them like in whatever their endeavors. So at the time, like right now they focus a lot on technology fields, but at the time they had like an entrepreneurship pathway. And so having a coach, having like access to mental health, specialists, we also had when you would go, like there was access to the gym, there was a chef on the campus, so that, or, on site. And so when you went, it also gave me like the university vibe of like, even though I'm doing like some school online and still, you know, continuing my education as far as in my field.
It was something that you missed out on.
Yeah, I got a chance.
Years.
Yeah.
So now, okay.
Yeah, I got a chance to be a part of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was nice to, you know, be a part of that. And I was a part of the second cohort for that program. So, so also Wrong for Women, y'all also helped me tremendously with that program. I do want to say, I did not mention this before, but I am also the president of the Missouri State Lactation Foundation, which is a nonprofit. So there's 3 of us on the board, Amanda Rhodes and Mary Muse. But our focus is to increase access to families, to lactation support, supporting our private practice IBCLCs, because it's hard out here, you know, as entrepreneur. And also there's like a lot of red tape as far as like insurance coverage. There's not a lot of conversation around how breastfeeding is important to the infant mortality, you know, crisis that we're experiencing. I feel like people are like, okay, well, you just breastfeed, and I get that it's a choice, but everything in life is a choice. But we need to make sure that folks can access pumps and they can get time off work and they have access to donor milk and these things that are beneficial. And so we also are working to support our families that were affected by the tornado, to make sure that they have some access to donor milk. So if anyone's out there and they know someone who needs some help with breastfeeding, who needs access to donor milk, and whether they're formula feeding or not, if they have, you know, electricity, they can still get access to donor milk, especially if we have a very, like a premature, that early baby or a baby whose immune system would really benefit from breast milk. I think that whenever there's a disaster, the immediate thought is we need to send formula. But let's think about when it comes to like emergency disasters, sometimes or often there may not be clean water, or they need bottles of water in order to prepare the formula. And if they're already formula feeding, there's certain formulas that they need to give the baby. You can't just give them anything. I mean, you can in an emergency, but it's like, ideally, we want them to get what they were utilizing before. So there should be a plan in place, and we don't have anything nationally that looks into like what emergency feeding plan looks like for infants, and especially with the focus on breastfeeding education and breastfeeding support in addition to donor milk, because not all, like I said, breast milk is life-saving. And especially for our ill babies, for our premature babies, they really need to have access to breast milk. It's as simple as that. I mean, like one little drop of breast milk has over 1 million germ fighting properties in a drop. So when we say, oh, breast is best, or not even that, just like it's better, it's healthier, there's so much science to back this. It's not, I'm not saying it because, it's my preference to do it. It's like, no, I want to make sure that you're not fighting an uphill battle against your employer or against healthcare systems for you to choose to do that, especially when you know that it's going to be beneficial for you and your baby.
Oh, once again, great point. Great, just allowing people to really see so much of what they may not be aware of.
Yeah.
Going back to your business, Sweetest Nectar, talk about the importance, because one of my biggest pet peeves is unprofessionalism, and especially within our people.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that outside of our race, you may have bad businesses, but we tend to hold ourselves to a higher standard, or need to, hold ourselves to a higher standard. So talk about this from your perspective, how important it is for Black businesses to really stand on business and be more professional, be more accountable, communicate better, stop all this ghosting, type stuff. Talk about that from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand like what your capacity is, and it's okay to hire out if you need someone to come in and help you to understand what customer service should look like. Because once again, if we're creating businesses, and we're used to talking to our family a certain way or doing things a certain way. And then we have to bring that to the masses. And then now we're not as professional. I think it's okay to bring somebody in that can help, or watch other, or not be afraid to watch other businesses and see what's working and apply that. So I think it's really important for us to just lean into kindness. Like I've had some blunders, especially as a entrepreneur, where I've had to go back and be like, oh, I'm sorry, or I overlooked this, or I missed this, or whatever. So it's also having that transparency.
That's key.
Like if I make a mistake, I'm okay with, apologizing and also correcting the issue, as well as not trying to show that I know everything. Like I've been in situations where someone has asked me, hey, have you ever seen this before, or do you know anything about this? And I'm like, I don't know, but let me find out.
Right.
I don't have to know everything. I don't think it changes like my professionalism or the confidence that people have in me by me just being honest that, this is the way that I can show up for you. And if I'm not the right person for you, I'm also okay with referring out. Like, when I talked about doing the interviews with families, I've had interviews where I'm talking to someone and I'm like, ooh, some of the stuff that you would like for your birth, I don't do that, or we're not quite as aligned. Right. It's not a money grab for me. I know like 5 doulas over here that have that same philosophy and they can help you out. Let me refer you to one of them. So it's also being okay with saying like, this person, this ain't for me, or, or whatever, and making that referral out, just not trying to like service everyone, just like say, hey, this is my philosophy, this is my business model, and stay within, the people that gravitate towards you. It may not be in your wheelhouse to try to serve everybody, and they
and
may not mess with you. Yeah.
Once again, as someone who has a business as well, you can't please everyone, but there's still an outlet for you. There's still people who's going to receive what you're doing if you know what you're doing. Yeah. So exactly. That's big. A couple of comments here. Going back to your amazing points earlier, Zoe Hansen says, such amazing points.
Thank you, Zoe.
Natalie Thomas, look at my friend. Go, Queen.
Oh my gosh. I know her.
There we go. So yeah, once again, I hope everyone have been enjoying this amazing Smoooth Conversations with Candice Ward. I was going to bring up one more thing here in regards to business, but I want to go ahead and bring this up now before I'm not going to say forget, but we do have maybe about 14 minutes left to go. So I want to bring this up because you have done so much over your career in regards to being a doula and doing so many things for others. Talk about doing that while also having a balance. Now, earlier you brought up divorce, but also talk about being a mother.
That's minus 2.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, no,
that's coming soon.
But I know, like, you trying to make me get all emotional. But yeah, the thing I always say, when it is just you, there are going to be areas that you drop the ball in. So there's times where I'm like 100% like really, really showing up for work and I'm getting things done and doing what needs to be done. And then the household or some of the family needs are not always like taken care of as the best that I like how I envision for things to happen. But then there are times where folks can't find me because I'm very much invested in like maybe I'm homeschooling or doing, I'm focused in on what my kids need at that time. And I need to make sure that they're okay, or we're dealing with some challenging moments. And I have a huge family. And so, that means that's going to be more of a pool than just maybe having 1 or 2 children. So, I try to balance by really, when I can, I have a lot of schedules. I have schedules in my phone that tell me what I should be doing when I should be doing it. And I try to stick to it as much as I can. But when I can't stick to it, I give myself grace. And just understand that, we can only do so much in one day. And I always have, it's like if I could get 3 things done, that's the best that I could do for today, and just try to learn from that and improve myself for the following. And that's my little tribe. We've been through some things, and but we are close, and we have like such deep conversations. I mean, I'm so proud of them. Like they're doing amazing things as far as just like career and school, and I'm just, at this, I mean, when you see this, you like, okay, divorce, they used to be XJW and had a traumatic marriage. That's a book. That sound like
talking about a story be told.
It was just by me saying, oh, I got all them kids, like that in itself. It's like, well, tell us about what's going on with that. But that's the whole story. So, maybe I'll get a book deal. I've already started writing it. So, if you want to help a sister out to have a disposable income while she sleep.
Right. That's it.
Then I have more time
money while you sleep. Yeah.
Thank you. And to my family, or maybe I'll invest into some real estate or something, but either way, then I'll have some more time to balance. So, but I will also say that I have the extended family, the family friends, who show up to do things. And because my kids are, I have a lot of kids that are grown, they help and support each other and fill in the gaps in the places that I can't.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be prouder of just like, how they, just what they're becoming, and, just seeing them, I just no words for how deeply I am just so proud and so grateful for my kids. So regardless of the things that I've experienced, when I look at them, I'm like, man, it's worth it. And it's also part of the reason why I push myself so hard, because I have a reason for why I want to leave a mark in the world and make sure that my legacy has something to say. Well, my mom showed up in this way, and also that I showed up for them as well.
So since I don't know, and for those who may be just watching for the first time and seeing your story and seeing your family, if you can go from left to right, the names and ages.
Right. Let me make sure I know all these kids. I have all these. Hold on. Okay. So I have Carlos in the very back with the red and black hoodie on. And then my Kevin, which they look a little bit older now, but my Kevin, my Khalees is sitting right next to me. That's me, of course. And then my Silas sitting too, which looks like my right, but I guess it'd be on my left. And then my Charles, who is the oldest, standing up. And then my baby, my youngest, Chase. Shout out to Chase, because I know y'all watching. So that's my gift, my little seeds and legacy.
As always, Hanson said that would be an amazing and impactful book.
Yeah, thank you.
And who is this? Moon Shadow.
Oh, that's my cabin. Hey, son. Hey. Shout out to Kevin, my little genius.
So, yeah, I have to salute you, because I have two. I have a son who he's 23, and I have a baby girl who you just met. She's 9. So right there, I know it's something. So for you to have 6 kids, like just having 6 kids, just tell us from your perspective, just how possibly draining it can be, yet rewarding and fulfilling.
Yeah, I think that it's hard for me. I always say, like, our memory as mothers is not long. It's like when you first have your baby, you're like going through the pain, like, oh my God, I'm not going to have any more kids. And then the moment you hold that baby in your arms, you're like, I want another one. So I go through this a lot with my families that I work with. It's like, it's not, so you went through something, but then it's hard to like recall everything. So when they were younger, yes, it was a lot more challenging, but I wasn't doing it alone. Like, even though we had some instances where, even though I was married, it did seem a lot like I was a single mom, like handling a lot of things. But we also, we had a huge community of, women and men who were just like, oh, I'll come get your kids for you, or let me drop off a meal for you and do. So they did grow up in an environment where we had a lot of hands on deck to help. And that makes a lot of the difference. it really wasn't until probably like in 21 when it was like, oh, all that help is not necessarily around. So that's one of the things that is like the drawback of not being like still a part of like some sort of organized religion. Like you don't have like that support system. But then at the same time, we leaned more into each other. And then we also had people showing up, like I said, like extended family and friends, that it was just like everything that I needed, like in everyone, it started to appear. Like, and not to say that we hadn't experienced like heartache and folks who came in with ill intention or maybe didn't really have our best interests like at heart, but overall, like those people are no longer, a part of what we're building. And even just me sitting here and talking to you, like I even think about that, like, man, if one thing would have changed, a chess piece would have been moved in the wrong direction, I wouldn't even be able to share in this way with you. So it definitely was challenging, and it took a lot of organization. Folks used to say to me, like, they knew, like I don't like to raise my voice, so I would snap. And they were like, when we would hear the snap, we see kids look and like start lining up or whatever they say, and then I would stop what I was doing and look like, am I in trouble, or do I need to do something or whatever? So it just was, just about having a system and making sure like they knew to be attentive and they knew to, be respectful and to listen, but then also shifting as things changed, as they got older, and working more with them to have a different family unit, right? Like the way our family looks is different. And so we had to function differently, and it's challenging, but it definitely is doable.
So we got about a good 5 minutes left of this incredible show. Take away being a mother, take away doula, take away business woman. Who is Candice Ward?
Well, I'm a whole vibe. When we first met, like I have learned, if anything, that I learned from wrong for women was to count your wins. And before that, like I really wasn't paying attention to the things that I had accomplished in my life. I kept saying, oh, well, I didn't complete this, or I'm a failure at this, or my marriage is ending. I was saying all these things. And then when I had a coach, and, and she would say, name the things that you did this week or last month, whatever. And when I started paying attention, first it was uncomfortable, then it started getting easy. Like, oh, wait, I developed that plan. Oh, and I went and taught there. And oh, I was a part of that decision and that committee. And, so I'm into music. I try to stay dripped in the fashion for low cost, maybe there's a spicy self-care tips coming to you. Not maybe, there's a spicy self-care tips coming to you real soon somewhere out here in the social media world. So I'm just enjoying that I can breathe, and that I overcame something that, I wake up and I'm like, I might not be living right now. Like that's how traumatic my situation was. So every day I show up in joy, and I also show up in light and just my happiness. And I'm not really concerned about, I'm unbothered about it. So it's like either you love it or you don't, and it's okay. You don't have to.
And lastly, any special shout outs, and if you want to promote anything about what you're doing?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I will say the one place that I did not mention that has a dear place in my heart is Corriday House. Corriday House is a house basically where you can go in during pregnancy or your postpartum and get poured into. And I know that she'll be expanding to like that perimenopausal stage and the things that of women just changing, because postpartum is eternal. So I'll shout out to that. But just a shout out to my family. Like, my sister, I Am Quiche, if she's on here, I just think everybody should follow her. I Am Quiche on all social media platforms. Just follow her because she's amazing. We already mentioned Shantae Love, but to my kids, I love them. To my family, my extended family, everyone my mom, whoever, got a chance to tune in today, I just thank you. And you can follow me at Sweetest Nectar LLC, Facebook, IG, and all of that. And otherwise, you'll see me out in these St. Louis streets just being a whole vibe.
There you go. So with that being said, that's another edition of Smoooth Conversations. I hope that you all have enjoyed it. Make sure y'all scan the QR code. You will also see in the QR code Beat District Radio information as well. So you have that along with everything that's connected with Smoooth Productions. Mm-hmm. So thank you once again for an incredible conversation. I told you it'll be a nice release, right?
It was,
And you definitely held that down.
I had my chamomile tea.
Right. So you was good.
And ashwagandha, y'all.
So once again, stay tuned for so much more with Smoooth Conversations and also with Beat District Radio. A lot of stuff going down, a lot of great events. Once again, speaking of great events, you also, of course, you have me on YouTube. Go ahead, like, subscribe, Smoooth Conversations. Go to KBDR Beat District Radio. They have the app. Well, we have the app, and also they have the website, beatdistrictradio.com. And then a plug for the wifey, G4L Daughters, Daddy-Daughter Dance, going down June 21st. Scan the QR code or go to G4LFTL.org and show love. That being said, Smoooth Conversations. Y'all have a great rest of y'all evening. We got this thing and have a great one. Much love. Stay tuned and stay smooth.
What you have just experienced was brought to you by Smoooth Productions. Until next time, stay tuned and stay smooth.